no telling where we've been. And all I know is that if you can't find me, you may never want to find me again. 'Cause people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Hola, everyone. We are here for episode 55 of the Ballroom Podcast, and it looks like right now it's just going to be a two-man show because either everyone's getting blown up by fireworks or people are having the head woozies at the moment. But right now, I got my good friend Orange Hat Reviews here with us tonight. How you doing, Orange?
Yeah, can't complain. Happy 4th of July.
For the record, if you hear anything in the background that sounds like gunfire or fireworks, just know it's 4th of July. It's 9 p.m., so it's nothing that I can do about it. It's just going to have to sound like we're in the middle of like Beirut right now. But trust me, it'll pass within the next hour of the show, so don't freak out too much here.
We got gun nuts up here, so they're probably going to fire off here too.
Oh, yeah. And especially since 9 o'clock is only going to get worse from here. So if you hear some stuff in the background, just like it's nothing I can do about it. But yeah, it looks like we got Spencer here in the chat so far. Neozoic got another line for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I feel like that should be like the start of like a Metallica song, Injustice for All, but we'll just go ahead and leave it at that. Yeah, Star Spangled Banner, 4th of July references all around. Let's see, we got Vanya giving us a good 4th of July. Happy people. I got Excalibur here joining us right now. Doba Fett. We got Alex versus Evil also in chat as well. We have people on Rumble at the moment, which I do believe we now have super chats on Rumble. I'm not sure if I had mentioned that beforehand. And we're also on Kick. So we got people going on all around the circle at the moment. People are going to trickle in later on throughout the show, so we'll have more people joining us here. I know a few people are running a little bit late, but you know what? Screw it. We can go ahead and get started without them. And I guess the topic of discussion for the last few days have been the massive box office flop that was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now they're saying officially, now this is officially, which means they're probably losing more than this, but officially this film could end up losing $200 million for Disney. Wow. And this was a film that you can argue never stood a chance. I mean, we're talking about the idea of bringing back Harrison Ford in his 80s to revamp himself as Indiana Jones. So you're talking about an 80-year-old action star at that. And then the only reason why this film exists is because Kathleen Kennedy wanted to replace Indiana Jones with a female counterpart. She wanted to give this franchise the Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and that whole thing failed miserably. Didn't work at all. The test screenings were absolutely awful for this film. They had to reshoot a large portion of it, including the ending. The budget of this movie ballooned up to $329 million for production, which means that this is outside of James Cameron's Avatar. This is probably the most expensive film ever produced. Realistically, it's probably going to have to make somewhere between 800 to 900 million before it ever sees a profit, and it's not going anywhere close to that number right now, which I'm saying that the $200 million loss thing is probably a conservative number right now. I can see this losing way more than that. Like, it's probably going to lose more money than The Flash, and The Flash is going to be a major loser as well here. So before we pull up the article here, let's join our first straggler of the night, C.S. Johnson.
Hi, buddy. Sorry I'm late. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any gunshots and fireworks going on in your background right now?
Yeah, a little bit. That's part of the reason I was late. I was getting my dog situated. So.
Mm-hmm. So let's jump ahead in this story right now. Dial of Destiny already potentially facing losses north of $200 million, which means that 200 is basically the starting line of losses here. But everyone by now has heard the film. Very, very poor review so far. We reviewed it last night on the show, me, Rob, and Rick. We gave it anywhere between like a 1.5 out of 5 to 2 out of 5. It's not the worst movie that we've seen this year, and we'll talk about that in a while because I've seen far worse movies this week
I
than
think
that
they're
one.
burying the bar at this point, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Only $60 million for his domestic opening for Indiana Jones, which is by far one of the lowest out of, I think, any of the Indiana Jones movies up to this point. Right now, they're only expecting 130. I think the last time I checked, it was 151. That was last night. I need to know what the updated number is right now for the total worldwide gross. I think we got pulled here. Oh no, they're only at 150. Yeah, so it's bad. It's not good at all. They're probably expecting another 60% drop at the box office at the moment. So yeah, nothing is going good here. And then if you guys listen to the show that we did on Friday night, last night show, maybe a couple other shows over the weekend, we talked about the fact how here where I am at, apparently I was one of 5 cities that were selected to do a survey of the film as the movie was going on. So I got to fill out what I didn't like about the film, what I thought was good, how I felt about the character, stuff like that. And they did this in 5 cities because Disney is literally trying to gauge how interested the audience is in the possibility of Phoebe Waller-Bridge being the new Indiana Jones, as well as their interest in upcoming movies coming up. I don't know how they can possibly look at a $200 million loss with this film and think to yourself, okay, we got a new star here. Like the only reason they could possibly go forward with this after everything that has happened is that they're just hell-bent on women are going to be the lead of Lucasfilm, and there's nothing that you can do about it. But that's pretty much what they're telling you here. I have a couple other things we'll talk about throughout the course here, but I want to start off with Orange Hat here. Is that we've known that this has been kind of the agenda for a while now, and now it's finally here. So what do you think about the death of Indiana Jones along with the death of a lot of other Lucasfilm properties right at the moment?
Well, there's Star Wars, there's Indiana Jones, and there's Willow. Kathleen Kennedy is the slayer of franchises.
The Grim Reaper, you can say.
Huh?
The Grim Reaper, you can say.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, it's like, holy crap, $329 million for an Indiana Jones film. You should be able to do a lot of. I mean, I get digital, but if you had to freaking do that much, plus take into account your marketing, which is separate, you're looking at this movie is probably going to have, because you're going to have to basically double what you're making and then add another huge amount for the marketing because they marketed this movie heavily.
Yeah.
And, excuse me. And yeah, unless this movie makes around 800 million, like you said, it's going to bomb and bomb hard. And of course, everybody's like, well, this is finally going to get Kathleen Kennedy fired. It's like, shut the fuck up. Stop sniffing crack from certain YouTube channels and fucking use your head. It is Kathleen Kennedy. She fails upward. They're not hanging her from her toes. They're tripping her up the damn stairs like Joe Biden. And I'm sorry, when she leaves Lucasfilm finally, she's leaving on her own, and they're gonna say she was the best thing to ever happen to Lucasfilm. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no 2 Indiana Jones movies that took place after The Last Crusade, because The Last Crusade ended perfectly. It ended to where it was absolutely a perfectly closed ending. There was no, I mean, you found the freaking chalice of Christ. What else is there, you know? But yeah, I mean, I hope it does lose as much money as possible, because then it will put Disney over the $1 billion in losses.
this film is going to go well over 1 billion in loss, because if it loses the conservative amount of 200 million at this point, that's going to put Disney over about 1.1 billion over the last calendar year alone, and there's still multiple losses to be had here. Like, this isn't going to be the end here. But let me jump back in, Pete and CJ here. I'm going to start off with you, Pete. If you were listening to our first part of our show, Indiana Jones has bombed once again. Shocking, another Lucasfilm project here. It's failed. They're looking at a massive 9-figure loss, probably the biggest one they've had so far. What are your thoughts on like the future of Lucasfilm at this point? Because it's kind of hard to brush off the failure that is this movie right now.
Disney had made a critical mistake when they bought Lucasfilm, is that they bought into all their own PR. They really did believe that they could have done what George Lucas and his team at Lucasfilm and even the game company LucasArts could do, but do it better. And the truth of the matter is, the only thing Disney really knows how to do is milk something. They just find an IP, they milk it for all it's worth, and then when it's desiccated and dead, they walk to the next thing. The mismanagement of those properties under Lucasfilm is an incredible thing to see. You were talking about the movie numbers. I mean, they're just abysmal. But it's not even just like ticket sales, like cultural cachet. Like, how many people are talking about Indiana Jones? How many people are discussing the subject? How many people are still interested in it? There's this great part in Denny Geek. They did a rundown on some stats, including one by Deadline, and they pointed out that when you look at the demo, the type of people who are going to these movies, the audience they want is the same kind of thing you want for YouTube. You want people who are between 18 and 35, ideally 25 to 35. What they found was with Spider-Verse, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, you have ages 18 to 34. They hit the key demographic they want. However, for Indiana Jones, the core audience of ticket buyers were over the age of 45. And this kind of makes sense because I do have some of my younger family members who are like Gen Z, and you asked about Indiana Jones, and they're like, they don't really care. And that's kind of like, it's interesting to see how Disney has bombed, not just only in like terms of dollars, but they've bombed in the sense that Indiana Jones just isn't in the hearts and minds of people like it once was.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find any kind of logic about any of the decision making that's going on here, because as we've seen with the whole fallout with Bob Chapek, there's clearly people in Disney up until they started like letting some of these people go who are all in on this DEI agenda where they're going to make everything as progressive and woke as humanly possible. We've seen this been utilized with Star Wars. Even when people were pushing back against it 7 years ago with The Last Jedi, they decided that they were going to double down and triple down and quadruple down. And now we're here at this point where they've infected the Star Wars, both the current canon and the past canon. Now we're here at Indiana Jones, where we're going to try to dump that one down the river. Willow, they tried it with that as well. It's like Lucasfilm is like the big example of the problem, but it's Disney in general. They're all backing this. The problem is that over the last year, they thought that they can get away by putting stuff like this in the movie theater, and then they're still going to get like a massive return, like with a lot of these MCU films. But now they're starting to lose money, and they're losing money rapidly. Like $1.5 billion over 1 year would kill a studio back in the old system. But because we're basically have corporations running the show now, they're being held up by their other properties, but it has nothing to do with their movies. And they know that they're in trouble, because the survey that I got over the weekend or last week when I went to go see the movie, they were trying to gauge how interested people were in the next 5 films. And based on that reception, they're going to start losing a lot more money here. Like, I think Disney has broken whatever respect or relationship they had built with the audience over this last year. Now people are just turning away from them rapidly. It's almost like kind of an inverse of the whole Bud Light situation, where now when people hear the name Bud Light, all they can think of is what happened a few months ago. They don't think about the history of the company anymore. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing that's happened with Disney now, thanks to what they've done here in the last few years. Johnson, what do you think about the failure of Indiana Jones?
I laugh at it, frankly. So, but
are you still there?
I will say, speaking to what Pete said, that my parents were actually thinking of going. Yes, can you hear me okay?
You're kind of cutting in and out right there. Are you?
Sorry, we're having issues with my connectivity.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I've had internet issues because it's raining here. Okay, I was saying, my parents were actually thinking of going to this, and I told them not to, and they listened to me, so I just laughed. So, yep.
Oh, there you go. It's to save your grandparents. I guess you can put that one on your cap.
Yep. Well,
One thing
Neil has
say,
hold on real quick. Neil has a question here. Who do you think is worse, Rey from Star Wars or Helena from the Dial of Destiny? Well, I mean, Helena's only going to last realistically one movie, so.
Let's put them on feminist Survivor Island without any tampons and see who wins. Okay. So.
One thing. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say there. Movies are
you're just talk, Orange, because she's like 5 seconds behind us at this point.
Well, what I was saying.
Yep.
I was waiting for it too. That's what you say.
All right, go.
Yeah, she dropped out.
All right, fine.
She tapped out.
One thing I will say, if anybody is a Disney investor, like a shareholder, tell them to sue Disney for fiduciary violations. Because if you are a shareholder and you have a hefty investment into Disney, and they are taking it into a direction that is costing them money, which is costing you money, that is what is known as a fiduciary violation. They cannot, or because they have already had calls from shareholders saying, we don't like this direction, you are damaging the stocks. Not to mention, all this woke direction is also costing them pretty much $1 billion. Look at the stock of Disney over the last year. It is tanked completely. And if I was a Disney shareholder, thank God I'm not, I would say I am bringing suit against you. You have turned against your shareholders. This is a fiduciary violation. You're going to make up the money that you lost me. So, yeah, that's another thing that needs to happen.
I'm with Orange Chad in that. If I was someone, if I'm in my 50s or 60s and Disney is my retirement plan, I would be on suicide watch. Maybe I'd be watching those people because Disney is just so mishandling the company right now. It's really pretty incredible how they're managed to do this. Because you ask someone 2 years ago, is there a universe in which is there a future timeline in the multiverse where Disney goes bankrupt or Disney is bought out by another company like Apple? Most people, I think, would say, no, that's never going to happen. You ask those same people that question now, you're going to get quite a bit of a different answer. And I think you can see it whenever you pay close attention to. If you've listened to the last few investor calls, or you watch even something like when they're announcing the new Star Wars program, programs for like May the 4th. Notice how everything it just seems like they're kind of making these calls and announcing these shows, just holding on to the swing of their seat. It's like they don't even hardly ever have art even. They're just like logos and titles. And then you hear rumors or leaks that whatever project they announce, it might not come to fruition and they just made it up on the spot. Disney is in a really bad way. And I think what's happened now is that because we have the box office results, because we've had what they've done with Disney Plus, it's come to a point where no one can ignore it. And the media just will not carry the water for them, which has put Disney in a really bad situation right now.
Yep. And
it's like the old meme. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my actions.
Yep.
Here's the interesting. Disney will buy. I mean, Amazon to buy out Disney in a
Amazon's
few years.
losing money.
Yeah. Now, if you said maybe Apple, I could see Apple pulling a move like that because it would have to be someone who has a lot of cash on hand right now who would even have the ability to do that, because buying Disney at this point would not be a cheap endeavor for anyone. There's only like a handful of companies who can pull that off at this point. So I don't know if Amazon's the company to do that at this certain time.
Drax the Clown, George Lucas has been losing money because he bought stocks in Disney, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was a bad buy for a stretch of imagination there.
Pixar literally has Toy Story 5.
Are we going to talk more about like the content of the movie, or I didn't know how you wanted to handle spoilers on this one?
Well, I mean, we talked about it in detail last night, so I guess we could talk about it now. So, I mean, if any of you guys in the chat actually care to watch it yourself or something like that, which I don't think there's going to be too many people here but I don't know, just cover your ears for the next couple of minutes. But is there anything specifically you wanted to talk about that film? We can cover it right now real quick.
Modern Lucasfilm is really mean. I think that's what comes across to me most of all. I see this in project after project. It's just mean. They don't seem to really like people. Most of the old legacy characters are tired or worn out, or they're bad in some way. There's some kind of new young insert that berates them. And the projects themselves are not all that optimistic. Even this one, like as you know, the big finale is kind of like Indy becomes suicidal and just wants to die. So Kathleen's self-insert punches him and brings him back to the normal time, and they just kind of wraps up nicely. It's just kind of like, wow, that is not lifting my mood at all. It's an incredible thing to see. I just don't understand how we got this point in some ways, even though like I've been paying attention and reading, a lot of the stuff what you or other people have been reporting. But it's just like, how did we even get here? It's such a negative, toxic, sad atmosphere in cinema. And it's coming from Disney of all places.
Why did he want to die?
So in case you guys didn't realize, so in the first 25 minutes is actually the closest to an actual Indiana Jones film that you're going to get, because it's basically set like right after or the moments before the conclusion of World War II, right before the Allies declare victory. So it moves up about 25 years later, and Indiana Jones, the very next scene, he's literally a broken down 80-year-old man in his underwear who his son is dead. He divorced his wife, and his whole life is just being kind of a meandering old man at his job at the university, yelling at college students, right? So he really doesn't have anything to live for at this point outside of just simply being alive. So when they go back in time under very suspect methods, when he's back in like 200 BC, he just decides that I want to stay here. I don't want to go back. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is like, literally said, you can't stay here. You have to go back. It's like, no, I want to stay here. So this is the whole ending that we were talking about how she punches him in the face. And then he just like wakes up back in his hotel. I mean, not his hotel room, but his apartment. And everything's been fine. The day's been saved. Like that's literally the ending of the movie. So yeah,
it's a terrible resolution. It's not even a resolution, honestly. It's more akin to what they did with the second Spider-Verse movie, which is like, it just ends here. We're just cutting it off.
Yeah. I mean, at least this one gave you an ending. So I mean,
what happened to his son?
They don't particularly explain. He's just like he's dead. He
was
gone.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Well, Shia LaBeouf's actually making a more positive turn in his career, but it's like, I heard something about Vietnam, and I'm thinking to myself, what, did he die in Vietnam or something?
No. This was...
Might have become the Poochie, basically, the Indiana Jones franchise.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is set like right after the moon landing, so I think there was some Vietnam elements that were present here, but it wasn't very present in the main plot of the story here, so yeah. And here's the other thing we were talking about last night too, is this whole thing of we need to deconstruct all of our heroes who have done heroic things throughout the course of multiple movies. Well, now it's 20, 30 years in the future, and we have to show them as old, bitter losers who, despite defeating the ultimate evil, whether it's Luke Skywalker or Han Solo or here in this film, Indiana Jones, it's like years later, they're now broken down. They have no path. They're depressed. They don't want to be around humanity anymore. Then it has to be the strong-willed female to bring them back to the glory that they once were, even though they'll never reach that glory anyway. So this is the Kathleen Kennedy school of storytelling, and it's been rejected multiple times here, yet she's still around. So let's just hop over to this question, because it seems like we always come back to this after one failure after another, even though this has been almost 11 years now. What does Kathleen Kennedy have to do to get fired from Lucasfilm? Like, when is this ever going to draw the line here? Like, are we just going to keep doubling down with these terrible projects until they lose $2 billion, $3 billion?
She has to do something that is so terrible that is absolutely unforgivable. She basically has to do a Cuties, but more explicit. And when I say more explicit, I mean fully explicit. That is the only way she will be.
Hell, that might be the reason why she's still around. She might have evidence of somebody else in Disney doing stuff like that. So maybe that's why she's still there.
I mean, that's the going theory that she had, or that she's basically pulling a Hillary Clinton. I have all the skinny on all of you. So it's like, here's the thing: somebody needs to pull Jeff Bezos. Oh, you want to blackmail me? Zip, bring it on, world. I don't fucking care.
It is. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, it's bizarre. I don't know how I don't know. There's it doesn't make any logical sense, because people used to say, well, if she starts having projects bombing, then Disney, of course, will get rid of her. And then it was like, well, if there's enough media attention, then Disney will get rid of her. And it's come to the point where I'm not sure she could do anything that Disney would get rid of her. It's almost like she has a superpower, and or she has like some incredibly juicy dirt that's like the king of all Hollywood gossip, like the grand mother lode of of Hollywood sleaze that she's just ready to push the nuclear button at any time. I honestly do not understand it whatsoever. The only thing I could maybe see is that in Disney's eyes, because they have so many running failures at the moment, including in their parks, including the Marvel franchise, maybe they're like, this is just one of many. And so maybe that's what keeps her around. But I don't understand, because nothing fits. The politics angle doesn't really make sense anymore. The money angle doesn't make any sense anymore. I mean, and I've been told, I don't know how many times by Doomcock and others that she's going to be gone any day now. And yet she remains.
Well, like I said, he's been mentioned now. So I'm not the one that mentioned him, but since he has been messaged, I'm not saying that all of his, or when I did say that thing about people need to stop sniffing crack off of other YouTubers' channels, basically Doomcock is crack, because he's freaking making y'all just fucking thinking she's going to be gone any moment. And when I will not believe she is gone until she is actually gone. I'm sorry. I do not subscribe, or I freaking moved away from Doomcock's channel a few years ago when he kept on pushing all this shit. I got this. I got sources here. And it turns out to be fucking nothing burgers. I'm sorry. I just do not believe his channel anymore. I don't care if he's gotten accurate. I don't care if he's gotten better. I'm sorry. If you freaking push clickbait, I don't trust your channel.
I mean, look, I've been probably reporting on the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing since 2017, as far as I can remember. So this is right after, or at least 6 months after The Last Jedi. Then keep in mind, right after The Last Jedi, you had Solo that also flopped. And there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes with production as well. And it's like, okay, it's not like you haven't known that there's been a problem here for a while. We're talking about 5 years now, 6 years now. So all of these failures, like, look, the fact that they're going to lose probably $250 million or more on this film, that's a self-inflicted gunshot wound, because you guys have known the story here for quite some time, and you did absolutely nothing to stop it. Disney has, over the last few years, they've adopted this whole what would you like to call it, this whole antagonized marketing, where we're going to do something that's blatantly feminist, blatantly BLM, blatantly progressive, and then when you object to it, we're going to call you a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, whatever protected category we're trying to push out to the media. Now this is what we're going to call you, and this is how we're going to market our films. We saw with all the Disney Plus Star Wars series over the last year or so, show, how the entire marketing campaign has been, oh my God, can you imagine that these people are upset because the person is black? We've never had a black person in Star Wars before. Now look at all these races out here. And they think that that's going to entice people to watch their series. It's not. People are done with this crap. And everyone saw this coming a mile away. There was no effort whatsoever on Disney's point to stop it or change course or anything. They're fully to blame for what's happening right now. I think that they honestly believed that up until this last year or so, they were too big to fail. That their projects or their properties are too big. They have Marvel on their side. They have Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all these major properties, Pixar, that, hey, we can do whatever we want, and then the fan base is never going to turn away from us because we have brand recognition. And now they have brand recognition on the worst possible way you could think of. People are like, oh, that's a Disney property? Okay, I'm out. I'm not even going to bother listening to this now. So you've destroyed multiple brands in the course of 10 years? You destroyed everything. Like, you don't have anything in your name now that anyone respects or anyone's excited for. So what are we doing here?
The corollary to all this is what's happening in news media with entertainment journalism, especially with like the geek nerd blogs and the gaming sites. What people I don't think understand about what they want to call wokeness or outrage marketing, it's not that it's divisive. Besides it's hurting your brand because it's pushing away people that otherwise might come to it. It's also changing your focus. When you're putting your energy towards that, you're not focusing on the things that you should. And so when the gaming websites, when they were supposed to be building up viewers and people to come watch and read and build those relationships, they're instead putting out clickbait and making people mad. But the problem with clickbait, it's like a quick hit. It's like you get it, gets in your system, it goes out, and you're like, you feel a little crappy. I don't really want to do it again. It's not any way to build a business. It's not any way to build loyalty to a company. And I think that both what's happening right now in news media and what's happening in Disney is a perfect example of that. The other thing I would like to point out is that one thing I don't understand about Kathleen Kennedy staying there is how many relationships has she burned for Disney? They've had so many top tier creators come through. People like Benioff and Weiss. They had Zack Snyder. He's about to come out with a film that basically was what he pitched to Disney. There are oodles of these guys, Miller and Lord. All these different people who wanted to work with Disney came there and were basically told, you will get to do what we say you get to do, and we'll just slap your name on the box. I don't understand why leadership like Iger still are comfortable with that, because that is really going to hurt them in the long term. But again, it's like one of those impossible, it's a Mona Lisa smile. It's like one of those impossible mysteries you'll never be able to understand.
Well, another thing is that this is what happens when you cater to the smaller in number instead of the greater in number. And this is what happens when you cater to the minority and not the majority. You are saying, well, we don't care about the majority. We want to make you, the minority, feel safe and included and all that other shit. They've been included, and I've pointed this out in many streams. The minorities have been included in Hollywood for over 100 years. LGBTQ been in Hollywood for over 100 years. Blacks have been, I believe, in Hollywood and entertainment for maybe 100, maybe I think more around 80 years for them. Hispanics, I mean, it's been decades, folks, and they've had there's been representation all throughout, and yet they're all still whining, we don't have enough representation. Well, here's the thing. Once you start acting like whiny little bitches, we're going to start saying, okay, maybe we're just going to step away from you. That's the smart formula of working in a business. You step away from those who are getting too demanding, and you tell them flat out, if you get too demanding, we cease association. We're going to cater to the people who are going to give us more money. We are not going to cater to the people who are shouting for representation, and then when it comes that we give them this, they don't even show up, because that's what's been going on. That is what's been going on when you look at all the stats, when you look at all these polls. Who watched this? Who watched this? Nobody fucking watched it, and yet they are the same ones who are bitching because they don't have this or that. Well, here's the thing. If you want it and we give it to you, you fucking take it and you be happy about it. Otherwise, we'll just stop giving it.
And I have a little final point to make here before we move on to our next topic, but I guess we can invite this person on the show now. How you doing?
I love that in the background.
How's everybody doing? Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, like I said, I think the fireworks are starting to die down here a little bit, but then again, there's still like the 10 o'clock period of fireworks. So I think we get a little bit of fireworks, then people bring the kids inside the house, and then the next thing you know, it's just gunshots for a while. So it's going to be a little bit of a time here. So, but
Angelic, a resounding yes.
I mean, you can't deny the results. I mean, well, there was a big interest for Star Wars back in 2015, and every project they've done since then has lost money and gone down to the point where they haven't done a movie in theaters in a number of years. And like I said, Solo's lost money. Now here we have Indiana Jones, a massive loser. It's like you have to actually go back and look at what much did they spend on Lucasfilm? Like $4 billion. Like, wasn't that the cost here?
$3 billion for Lucasfilm, 1.5 billion, or $4 billion for Lucasfilm, 1.5 billion for the 3 treatments of Star Wars episodes 7, 8, and 9 that were never used and that were literally thrown in the garbage.
So let me ask you this question. Are they making that money back that they spent on their initial investment in movies? No. Are they making it back in merchandise? No. Are they making it back in theme park attractions? No.
Definitely no.
Exactly. So have they made any money back from their initial investment? It seems like they've lost more money putting into this whole Lucasfilm endeavor than they're ever going to make back, even if you adjust for inflation.
I mean,
if I wonder what is the end game to it all, because like you're killing your franchises. Like these were once like very strong, dominant franchises.
Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish by literally destroying them? What is your end game? How do you, Disney, continue to exist with these constant losses?
I mean, I would if I was a shareholder, I would actually call in on the next shareholder meeting and I'd be like, look, I am seeing one very large correlation to the failures of Lucasfilm and these theme parks that Lucasfilm has wanted to design, and the name is Kathleen Kennedy. I want to know why I'm losing so much money in Disney, because you all haven't done what you should have done and fired this woman. She is killing the stock. She is killing the brand. She is killing franchises. People are upset. Like I said, if you are a Disney shareholder, sue the hell out of Disney for fiduciary violation.
Yeah, because at this point, it's not even like how, and obviously this is Kathleen Kennedy's fault, but how can you continue to blame someone when clearly she has to answer to someone, and that someone's keeping this absolute abomination of a failure in the position that she's in? At this point, you can't even say it's necessarily Kathleen Kennedy's fault, because how many times as a company, the higher-ups above her are going to allow her to fall short time and time again?
She is a perfect sacrifice, though. That's the thing. Because in order to avoid accountability, they will say, all right, well, then we do need to fire somebody. They should fire Kathleen Kennedy.
But they're not. And then at some point, you have to question why and who's responsible for allowing this to happen.
Chapek and Iger.
Then what
need to go.
What did he do with that? Yeah, exactly.
They need to go as well.
It's like, yo, I just think back to Casino, where the film Casino, where that fucking machine kept getting hit after hit after hit on that machine, and the motherfucker that was the manager didn't pull the plug. At some point, you have to blame the people that hired that person to begin with. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how Disney is going to pick up the pieces.
There's no justification in Kathleen Kennedy remaining in her position at this point in time. There's absolutely none whatsoever, unless you're just 100% committed to her agenda, which is wiping out the fan base of old to recreate a new female-led fan base and put females in the head lead of everything Lucasfilm. So if you're not endorsing this, I don't know why she's even still there, because there's no other justification for her to be here at this point. She's not making you money. She's not bringing in new fans. She's not creating new fans. All she's doing is she successfully chased off everyone who used to love Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all these other properties, but she's not bringing any new people in. So again, why is she still there?
Yeah, I wonder at what point do they realize like we pissed away all the like interest in our brand? Like how do you build up from there when you deliberately went out of your way to chase people off? Like at this point there's no other way to go about it. Like you're deliberately destroying the IPs that you own. You're deliberately spiting the people that used to put money in your pockets. Like, when does it all end, and how does a company like Disney come back from this? Like, everything that they've dropped this year is a fucking failure.
I think I know what Kathleen Kennedy has on somebody that explains why she hasn't been fired. It's essentially, huh?
I say, yeah, I'd love to hear it.
You know how she was one of those dancing girls in Temple of Doom? And this was back in the 80s. Well, Casting Couch still existed in the 80s. So chances are she was a Casting Couch victim, and or from somebody extremely high up in Hollywood. And, well, that's the reason why they haven't fired her, because she could totally destabilize Hollywood.
I mean, we all have those brands, or if you want to go further into conspiracy theory, we all kind of threw Harvey Weinstein at the altar of wokeness, saying, no, he was the only producer who was doing Casting Couch stuff. He was the only one who got caught. Well, if you see, all the people who used to work very closely with Weinstein are still in great positions of power in Hollywood right now. They haven't gone away. So is he still running the show here behind the scenes? Like, what's going on here? I mean, even they mentioned earlier, the other assistant of Harvey Weinstein is heavily involved in not only the new movies, but the new Disney Plus shows they're doing for Star Wars. So
yeah,
his tentacles haven't been chopped off.
Yeah, Chin Headland.
Well, you guys know, like in China, they have like Nazi camps for the Uyghurs and stuff, right?
Yep.
If you read some of the reports of the people that miraculously managed to escape them, they're horrifying. And I feel like that's the kind of system they have in Hollywood. And that explains a lot of their pro-communism messages.
Wouldn't put it past them.
Oh, yeah,
well, I'm sure there's a lot of quid pro quo type of stuff, as well as like blackmail. So
yeah, I mean, that's Hollywood in general. They always look for a way to hold something over you so they can keep you in line. I mean,
I will say, I don't think they'll ever fire Kathleen Kennedy.
So here's the story with Kathleen. It's like, apparently she still has at least another year left in her contract. So the question is, do they fire her at any point of the next year, or do they just simply not renew her contract so they can be like, well, we didn't fire her, we just chose not to renew her because, like, which political game are they going to try to play here with this?
Well, like, what are they going to do next, though? I mean, like, they've torpedoed all their sequels. I mean, I know that Star Wars has to go on because it's Star Wars, but it's like,
I mean, that's the same argument that they won't renew her contract or they'll ratify her and whatnot. That's the same argument as, well, they didn't their diversity person, they got fired. Let's not beat around the bush, because a lot of people, there's been arguments, she resigned, she stepped down. They made her step down, because let's not beat around the bush, folks. When a person steps down from a high position like that, they are given a choice that is not a choice. You either step down, save face, or you step down and get fired in disgrace. That is it. Save face or disgrace. Your only two options. Kathleen Kennedy, they're making her option purely save face. They want
here's
her,
the other big,
on, but
here's the other big problem with Kathleen Kennedy too, because if you do eventually get rid of her, then you're going to have to essentially blow up every future project you've already announced for the next several years, because all of that has her fingerprints all over it. So this whole new Star Wars trilogy that's going to focus on Rey, you're going to have to get rid of that. You're going to have to get rid of the Acolytes. You're going to have to get rid of all the other upcoming Star Wars properties coming up. Any Indiana Jones, you're going to have to blow the whole thing up. Like, you're going to have to go full Warner Brothers James Gunn and just destroy everything. And will Disney put themselves in a position where they have to admit, well, you know what, we failed with this agenda, so now we have to go somewhere else? Because this is what it really comes to, is pride. They don't want to admit that they screwed up, that they got this wrong. So it's like, how do we pretend like that we were totally in the right the entire time while admitting that, hey, we have a problem here?
That you just explained, or you just basically told everybody why they won't get rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she put herself strategically in a position that put her hands and her fingerprints all over the future of these franchises. And until they are done, she's not going anywhere. They will extend her contract, most likely at the end of next year.
Yep.
I wonder how much this is a lightning rod, because maybe this is kind of like a Rasputin situation where she absorbs all the negative attention. People don't talk about Bob Iger or like any of the individual board members screwing up. It's mostly focused on Candy, and maybe they would generally agree with her approach. Is like, as long as she's here, she takes all the heat, and we don't get it. That's just speculation on my part, though. I really don't know.
I don't know. I think we're trying to find a rational explanation for why this whole thing's been happening. But in the realm of Hollywood, you can't apply rationale and common sense to what's going on out there. You just can't, because, like I said, if you could apply common sense, there's a case to make that you should have fired her 6 years ago, and you didn't. And now we're here. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually promoted her to like Disney CFO or something.
Yeah, just have her replace Bob Iger and then have her control everything that goes on at Disney. Might as well. You might as well.
At this point.
Yep.
It would be funny to learn that we all think her self-insert is Rey, but her actual self-insert is Palpatine.
I mean, but think about it like this. Look at the MCU. The MCU is replacing all of their heroes with female counterparts right now. This is what they've been doing over there at the Marvel for so many years. Pixar has already gone all in on LGBTQ stuff. So, I mean, moving to more female-led content within that range isn't a stretch for them. So, yeah, just put Kathleen Kennedy in charge of all of Disney and just go all in until the whole thing crumbles down like Building 7. Just do it at this point.
I dare you. I double dog dare you.
Yeah, no balls. But yeah, there it is. Disney is in a bad way. And speaking of Disney, we can continue to talk about more Disney problems, because my favorite show, which I have not seen yet, Echo, which comes out at the end of this year, about the Native American deaf, one-legged, disabled superhero that they decided to give 6 episodes of a Disney Plus series to. Every rumor that I've heard about this show so far is that it's terrible. Why is it terrible? Well, the lead actress of this series doesn't actually have any acting experience whatsoever. When I mean no acting experience whatsoever, if you go on her IMDb page, if you go on her Wikipedia page, the only thing she's ever been in as an actor was the Hawkeye series last year, a few episodes, and Disney gave this woman her own show. So now they're looking at the reality that we put an unqualified actor in the lead role of our series, who can't speak, by the way, because she's deaf. So many problems going on here. And now there's talks about this thing is probably going to be the worst thing that Marvel has ever produced. Here's the rumor from Bounding into Comics. Marvel Studios had planned to, I hear feedback here for some reason. So somebody's
feedback. Not me. I just muted.
Yeah. But the thing here is that Marvel Studios planned to give Echo the Batgirl treatment, but it was possibly saved as filler for the writer's strike. So essentially, they were getting ready to pull the plug on this whole thing. So here's the actress here. I forget her name. I'll pull it up here in a second. But according to the latest whisper on the streets, Marvel's upcoming Echo is so abysmal in the quality that the studio wanted to give Disney Plus series the Batgirl treatment, only choosing not to because they can basically throw it in as a filler due to the writer's strike. By the way, I'm gonna absolutely laugh if okay, never mind. We'll leave it there for a second. The word of Marvel's disappointment is that the resident deaf one-legged vigilante was first raised in the veteran studio stuntman Chris Brewster during the July 21st appearance at the unscripted podcast, and obviously they played out here. A brief recollection of his experience working with the original Netflix series. He's also worked with some of the other ones that have come out in the last few years. He served on multiple Marvel-related properties. So I guess they were talking about, I guess, the rumors behind the scenes about this show. Speaking about the upcoming Daredevil Born Again series, which is another one I believe is on hold till next year. He says that Marvel told every person working on that show that they don't want Born Again to look anything like the Netflix Daredevil series, which I don't know why you would want to do that, because that's a series that actually everyone likes and has critical acclaim. So why would you go against something that people have already established that they actually liked? It's this thing with Disney, and you heard this from multiple people. It's not just this guy, but there's people within Disney saying that, look, we don't want you to base this thing off of the comic books. We don't want you to base any of this off the source material. We want you to do your own original thing that has nothing to do with anything that's established. And then you wonder why people hate this stuff. So this, once again, this is your own fault. The vocal disappointment of the stuntman then asserted, "Trust me, not only did I work on that show, I was one of the biggest fans of the show. I think Marvel Netflix Daredevil was a masterpiece." He said, "I think the casting was perfect. I think every showrunner, every person who worked on that show was a genius. It was an incredible experience, in my opinion. Most people agree on that. It was the best Marvel streaming show. I think Charlie and Vincent, Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox, absolutely crushed it with their characters. I think every person who worked on the show absolutely nailed it." Sadly, his positive sentiments ended there when he talked about the future, which is the Disney Plus series coming up. I think now the MCU has taken over the character. They're really, really hurting it. This is the stunt coordinator who worked on the show. If you watch She-Hulk, they turned Daredevil into a cartoon. He began his criticism there. He says that it was all animated. It looks bad. I love CG to enhance real movement, but you don't have any real movement. It just becomes a cartoon. There's no CG. There's no weight to it. And it asserted that the action on Daredevil was so good that it was visceral, Brewster said. He felt like that what Charlie was feeling between his performance and just being there live in action, anything that you saw, he really did. You know, we put somebody on the wire. They said we needed something to enhance the movement, and we would just use CG. It was never a cartoon. It was, in fact, live action. You'll never match that energy in live action. You know that She-Hulk was a massive step down as far as that movement and the action goes. Now, this is where we start rolling down into Echo, because apparently both Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin will be making appearances in Echo, because otherwise who would want to watch a show about a superhero that no one's ever heard of? But he goes on to say that Echo isn't out yet, but I heard it's just as bad. I've heard they were going to Batgirl it because they weren't happy with it, but now they're doing reshoots and they're planning on airing it. But I think it can also do with the fact that there's a strike. There's a lot of content right now, but they're like, hey, we've already made it anyway, so there's no point of shelving it. Notably, this is not the first time there's been questions about the quality of Echo. Like I said, once again, what's her name? This thing stops moving. Aquia Cox, who's the name of the actress who's playing Echo in the series. Like I said, no acting experience whatsoever. It's kind of been a mess behind the scenes. But on the May 18th episode of John Rocca's The Hot Mic podcast, he said that he heard the show was kind of plagued by issues throughout the production. He heard that it was a mess. The show came in and they basically had to reshoot the entire thing because of poor quality. That was just not something that you want to hear. He goes on to say here, I'm told they originally shot 8 episodes. Kevin Feige thought it was unreleasable. So they talked about cutting it down to 4 episodes or 6, and they ended up reshooting it. My source did not actually know how many episodes they wound it up with, but apparently they needed to top down rejigger it, and Kevin was not happy. So when they announced that all the episodes were going out and one date, it was like, huh? And I was like, you need to read between the lines. It sounds like this one was a lost cause. So it seems like the people behind the scenes at Disney are absolutely dumping this all together. Like I said, I believe it's now 6 episodes that will be released in November on Disney Plus all at once. There won't be any kind of like weekly releases of this show. So it seems like they're washing their hands of this. And for someone who actually sat back and watched She-Hulk in its entirety, who got way more episodes than this one did, for them to insinuate that this one is somehow unreleasable is kind of a scary thought when you put it into perspective. But once again, yeah, nobody else to blame but yourself. I don't know who told you that this was going to be a good idea by any estimation. Putting an actress who's not an experienced actress whatsoever, you literally put her in the role because she's actually an amputee who with one leg, who has Native American origin, who's actually deaf. So she's not even acting as far as that goes. So
I'm so excited. I cannot wait for this hot steaming pile of shit to come out. Like this seems like this is the cherry on top of this giant shit. Like this shit sandwich. Like that's literally what the MCU is. And I want them to continue. Please release more Echoes. Please just continue to make a fool out of yourself as a company. That's the most excitement I get out of Disney. Every time they release something that even they're disgusted with before it even gets to like, you know, us, like the general public, I can't wait. I'm so glad that this piece of shit made it off the cutting room floor. I can't wait to see some of the most retarded fucking clips surface on Twitter so that I can make fun of and laugh at the dick-faced losers that are actually gonna sit there and defend this piece of shit. I'm excited, guys. Team Echo, baby. Team Echo, season 2, I want it already. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
I mean,
you muted society.
Wonderful thing about this is that during this whole writer's strike, which I believe there was a rumor that Disney actually started it. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that rumor, but there's 2 reasons: unfair pay and AI. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's kind of weird that if Disney started this rumor, that they would use AI in their Disney Plus shows, because what are the odds that they're probably going to use an AI introduction for Echo like they're doing with Secret Invasion right now? But the fact that this thing was so bad that they didn't want to freaking air it, and now that it's like, we got to give them something during the writer's strike. Okay, let's take the biggest steaming pile of shit that is bigger than what Jeff Goldblum saw in Jurassic Park, and we will just fucking heap it all over freaking Disney Plus, and people will just watch it. And it's like,
it's really an astounding level of arrogance on Disney.
It really is.
Right? It's like, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'm just thinking like old Hollywood, right? I'm thinking in the realm of these ideas have to be presented in like a pitch meeting. Like usually you get like, 10 people together like in a room, and they kind of pitch the idea, and most of the people in the table have to agree to the idea before it ever sees the light of day. And no one in that room was like, hey, look, we have a deaf Native American woman who's never acted in anything in her life, and we're going to give her 9 episodes of a Disney Plus. She can't act. She can't speak. She can't act. Like, who thought that this was a good idea? And apparently everyone just raised their hand and was like, yes, representation.
And and that's the thing, I feel bad for this girl, because they know how bad this is, and they are putting her on the fucking spotlight. They are making her look this or bad. And I'm like, this girl's going to go into such a freaking depression, because when
they put her in a spot she was absolutely not qualified to be in. This is like pulling like a fan out of the stands and having them be the quarterback of the Patriots in the 4th quarter. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's like, we need you to basically, we are going to sacrifice you on the altar of wokeness so that you can keep us afloat until this fucking writer strike is over. Here's the thing, you dumb fucks. They're not going to get, or this writer strike is not going to end anytime soon. It's been going on for what, a couple months now?
Yeah. If anything, you're only justifying like having your jobs replaced by AI at this point. So, but
yeah,
I will say this really quick. Hearing Cassie run down the show reminds me of that one time that Stephen A. Smith ran down Kwame Brown. I just wanted to play this just real quick because it is absolutely hilarious.
Did LA give up too much to get a guy who has been labeled soft, although he puts up 19-9, which only 11 other guys do?
Is that a trick question?
You tell me.
They gave up Kwame Brown.
Two
Who
first
cares?
rounders.
I could care less.
Tied into his salary for 4
First
years.
of all, understand something. When you're giving up first round picks, if you are a quality team in playoff contention, it really doesn't mean that much. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, Kwame Brown is gone. The City of Angels, Hollywood, just should be celebrated. Throw a parade already, whether you win a championship or not. This man was a bona fide scrub. He can't play. No disrespect whatsoever, but I'm sorry to tell everybody the truth. The man cannot play the game of basketball. He has small hands. He can't catch the ball. He's got bad feet. He can't really move, even though he's mobile. Doesn't really know what he's doing. Doesn't have a post move that he puts to memory that he can do 2 times in a row. He has no game whatsoever. Plays no defense. Doesn't have the heart, the passion, or anything that comes with it. And you're asking me whether they gave up too much? Please, the Los Angeles Lakers knew exactly what they were doing. They should be celebrating right now, and Kobe Bryant should not be saying a word.
His contract comes off the books. And
I just wanted to play that because it's basically just calling the dude a scrub in front of the entire world.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I mean, like, look, she, like I said, I do kind of feel bad for her because I mean, like I said, this woman has no acting experience whatsoever. She's been thrown here. And look, if this thing's as terrible as everyone's saying it is, I don't think she's gonna have a long career in Hollywood to begin with, unless there's some serious pity for her here. But look, she's been put in a position that she's at absolutely no business being put in to begin with. If you wanted to have her as kind of like a guest spot in like the Hawkeye series where she doesn't have to really do too much, it's like fine, I guess. But you're asking her to lead a 6 to 9 episode television show. How could you possibly think that this was a good idea?
They literally turned this girl into a professional victim.
Yeah. And she can unironically actually claim to be the victim because, like I said, you're putting someone woefully unqualified just so you can sit there on the ultra and see, like, look at the representation we're doing on this show. Hey, she's disabled. She's Native American. She's a woman. Hey, she might even be gay too. It's like we checked all the check boxes on this, and you created quite possibly one of the worst television shows of all time. Congratulations.
But she wasn't Down syndrome. You didn't check all those boxes.
Yeah.
Never enough. Someone will find something to complain about.
And then another couple of shows here that are still scheduled to come out. You have the Ironheart series, which is on hold at the moment.
Yeah, that thing is never going to see the light of day.
And apparently they were planning on going really hard on the LGBTQ stuff on that show. And now that one, like I said, it might be, I can't imagine it being worse than Echo, but it doesn't sound like anything positive coming out of that. And then apparently they're still going to move forward with the Agatha Harkness TV show, even though like the whole premise of the show comes from a meme from like 2 years ago, and you're going to give this one a 10 episode. Like this is what we're talking about here. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, do you have to go to a 4-year university and go $80,000 in debt so you can get a degree and make bad decisions like this?
I think I would say I'd insert there the Stephen A. Smith meme. You know, like what?
Yeah, exactly. It was. I don't know. Maybe the world's just too dumb that for someone like me who has like a moderate intelligence, it's just like they just can't wrap my head around it right now. Maybe I need to just smash my head into a desk a few times before it makes any sense, because I just don't know how we possibly got to this point.
It's such a backwards way of thinking, but we've seen this. I mean, really, we first saw in comics, but it kind of spread to all pop culture entertainment. It's this idea that if you just frontline characters or stories to have diverse messages, that means the groups they represent will automatically flock to it, and that is just not the case. The generally speaking, the people who are into really high diversity type stories, they tend to be middle-aged white women, usually middle to upper class. Nothing wrong with that, you know, if that's what you are. But it's not really a huge comics or you know, ticket buying audience. They don't show up as much in mass. In the case of comics, they weren't really buying anything at all. But in terms of entertainment, it's like you know, if you talk to anime fans, you talk to young black anime fans, they're like, well, why don't you like such and such story, this character, because you know they're black, isn't that what you love? And like their favorite show is Dragon Ball, because it's like everyone's favorite show is Dragon Ball. People don't work that way, but that's how executives and PR people and the DEI folks, that's how they all approach it. But that doesn't work because people, I'm disabled. I have some very difficult things. I don't seek out things to say, oh, look, they're disabled. Of course I'll love this. No.
So what you're saying is that if they put a disabled man as Batman, you wouldn't sit there and say, oh, I finally identify with Batman after all these years.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Bruce Wayne has always been a little bit disabled to put on a giant bat costume and run around.
He's a complete psychopath. I mean,
he has dissociative disorder or dissociative identity disorder to the point of excessiveness.
He believes he's Batman. He doesn't believe he's Bruce Wayne. He believes he's
Batman. I mean, like they said in Batman Beyond, it's like this voice in my head kept on calling me Bruce. Well, what do you call yourself? He just looks back at Terry like, you really have to ask that?
Yeah. So yeah, this is man. There's a lot of stupid people just running Disney right now. Like it's absolutely astounding that we've gotten here. Like,
Bill Engvall was right.
It feels like the inmates are running the asylum and they're burning the whole thing to the ground.
Yeah, Bill Engvall was right. Stupid people should have a sign on their forehead saying "I'm stupid." That way you wouldn't rely on them so much.
No, well, that comes with the mark of the beast. So we'll have to wait a little bit before we get that "I'm stupid" sign. But that's a topic for another day. Yeah. Any last thoughts about this one? The greatest television show ever created. Before we move on to our next topic,
bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on.
Let's hop over to Jada Pinkett-Smith, who seems to be the greatest mother in the whole wide world. If by your definition of greatest is the worst ever, Jada Pinkett-Smith
is the general topic of tonight just dumb whores? Like, is this what?
Almost.
Oh shit! At least I wasn't the one to say it first.
Yeah. So where to start with this woman? So if you remember last year, Jada Pinkett-Smith was the subject of the whole Chris Rock Will Smith slap incident, where Chris Rock made a joke about Jada, then Will Smith slapped Chris Rock live in the Oscars in front of millions of people, and then pretty much burned his bridges with a lot of people in Hollywood as a result. So he's trying to do another Bad Boys movie to make people forget that he slapped Chris Rock and stuff like that. And ever since then, like, Jada has been doing a lot of things that have exposed the family and just how degenerate and just how I want to say evil, but I mean, you're borderlining on that right now with some of the things that have gone on there. Like, you've heard, like, you know, Jaden Smith, it's been like a meme for the last number of years. They tried to make him a Hollywood star. That failed miserably. Now he's like modeling dresses for some obscure fashion companies you never heard of. I don't even know what Willow is doing at this point. I know they tried to make her a pop star at one point. That didn't work out at all either, but there's been a lot of questionable things about this family. And now Jada is in the news once again over something that Jada said, because Jaden claims that Jada was the one that influenced the family to start using psychedelic drugs. So the 24-year-old, which, I mean, he's only 24, it's kind of astounding in and of itself. But Jada was the first to introduce the family into psychedelic drugs, according to her son, Jaden. He said, I actually think that it was my mom, actually, that was the first one to make that step for the family. So it wasn't just like him. It's like literally everyone, let's do this, I guess. He spoke at the Psychedelic Science Conference in Denver, which I believe is the same one Aaron Rodgers spoke at, because Aaron Rodgers is now trying to legalize psychedelics. So we thought that legalizing weed would be like the end of it. And now we're already trying to legalize like DMT and all kinds of really nasty stuff too. But here it says it was really just it was just her for a really, really long time, and then eventually it trickled down and evolved to everyone found it in their own ways. Reps for Jada didn't immediately respond. However, since this interview has come out, she's used kind of this topic to, I guess, elevate her own book that's coming out in the next coming week. So who knows if this is all just gobbledygook to promote Jada's book, but it seems like she seems to be the head of a lot of the questionable decisions that happen in this family. But Jaden did say that within the mainly illegal drugs that are in the U.S. gives them more empathy with his siblings. He says that siblings could argue so much and fight so much, and Lord knows that me and the siblings have done so much of that in the past, talking about his sister Willow. But the level and love of empathy that I feel from them inside the psychedelic experiences and outside the experience has been something profound and beautiful. Well, I have several questions regarding that statement here, but he says that doing drugs together helps them open their mind and get out of the old way of thinking that got us into a lot of these arguments, and open us up to just release it opens it up so that we just releases and makes room for you to work it out and massage it out until it's completely gone. So like I said, they're talking about like DMT, osteonica, LSD, Molly, stuff like that. So this is all that they're promoting here with this conference. And of course, the family here, the lovely family of people here, you can see here in this video. This is, I guess, the trip that they're all on.
Go back to that.
Okay.
Go back to that. Scroll up to the previous picture.
This one? Yeah.
Yo, that bitch looks like Nosferatu. You can't tell me shit, dog.
Yeah.
Looks just like that motherfucker, dog.
Son of a bitch, man. She did it better than Nicolas Cage.
It's not great.
Fuck.
That
woman looks like she is ready to tear her throat out.
Yeah, so I guess I start with you, Pete. Where do you fall on this whole thing with the drug use and just kind of the ever-going soap opera of absolute degeneracy that is the Will Smith family?
The entertainment industry and big pop culture fame in general, I don't think is good for people. It's especially not good for families. Mm-hmm. I was reading up because I saw that was on the docket for you, so I found myself reading an article about Will Smith. She talks about debuting a shocking new piercing. See her unrecognizable new look from Hello! ! I'm not familiar with the magazine, but it talks about it's actually more interesting than you think, because she got her first piercing, a tongue piercing, when she was 11.
Yeah,
11.
Well, but keep in mind, she's also talked about the fact that I guess Jada has like encouraged them to watch porn, and how she was the one that got her into masturbation and other things too. So there's a lot of very questionable parenting ethics coming. All seem to be emulated from Jada Smith.
Yeah, one of the previews. This, by the way, all this info that's coming out is trying to pump up people to buy Jada's new book. So they want people to know this information. One of the interesting things was they were talking about a Brazilian butt lift, and when Jada was a young teenager, that was a possibility. If Jada's kid wanted to do that, they were going to do that. To me, it's like, what? It's just such irresponsible parenting, I don't think that's a left or a right position. I think most people will understand, some things are for adults and some things aren't for teens and kids. And I just think everything I've ever read about this family, it sounds like it's high drama. It sounds like they're exposed their kids at very young ages to very adult things. And I just don't think it's very good for them. I don't think it's good for people. And it's kind of a sad story, really. I mean, maybe that goes back to the Will Smith slap, but I'm glad I'm not part of that family. No offense to those people, as Smith said, but I think they're terrible.
I mean, I don't know where to start with this family, because there's a number of reasons. Like, I know, I think Will's been in like Scientology for a while. I'm not sure if that still plays a role into this. And then you're seeing this is his oldest daughter, Willow, who's 22 now, according to like the article. Then that's Jada. So how, I don't know, maybe just because we've been covering witches a lot over the last couple of months, but how come everyone just looks like they just stepped out of the gates of hell, like in Hollywood? Why is this like the new default normal look of like everyone in this industry?
We've gone back to 90s teen goth.
I mean, this is far suppressing '90s teen goth because I mean, I remember the goth kids from the '90s, and even they
don't
didn't
have
creep
to
me out
hide
this
anymore.
much.
They don't have to hide anymore.
Yeah.
Ever since that Devil on Stage thing that they did, and fucking Taylor Swift doing freaking spells on stage and shit, they don't have to hide anymore. And to answer Duke Nukem, she literally taught her daughter in the same room how to stimulate herself sexually.
Yeah.
Lots of really weird, bizarre stuff.
Physically. She basically had sex with her daughter.
Yeah.
That's how fucked up Jada Pinkett-Smith is.
And then, is it any shock that her daughter now looks like this? This is like a completely functional, mentally sane human being.
I mean, if these women came up to me, I would basically lift up a fucking crucifix just to see if they back off.
Is the implication here that the kids were exposed to psychedelics when they're kids? Is that kind of what I'm supposed to be doing here and reading between the lines?
That's what they're saying that these parents did. And honestly,
it doesn't clarify if they started them while they were kids, but it definitely started in their household. So who knows? I mean, they could have been, but they'll never admitted that they did it when they were in a younger age. But it definitely started from at least the top down. So.
I mean, modern day Hollywood tries to act like, oh, this is the new age. This is something new. Look, man, this is as old as it gets. All right. With this family, I just think back to Rebel Without a Cause and James Dean's family in that movie. Jim is just my mom runs the show and my dad's a submissive punk bitch. And guess what we have because of it? My family is a zoo. And this is exactly the same situation. Old story, new generation. Things, as much as they want to pretend that things are so different and whatever, we've had these stories, and guess what? The same thing is happening all over again. This is a fucking zoo of a family, and they shouldn't be taken seriously. They are just a bunch of clowns. And when you look at them, you look at how they look, they're a bunch of fucking freaks, not for nothing. And just being extremely disconnected by being, ultra rich and the mainstream, with the fame and all that, you're going to have a disconnect from reality just naturally from being in that unnatural lifestyle. But this is definitely excessive, and they're emboldened by the way society tends to prop up a zoo. That's literally what it is. It's sad to say, but it's true, man. This isn't some new shit. They've been making stories discussing how this leads for as far back as we could possibly go. Rebel Without a Cause is literally a perfect example of it.
I just wanted to go back to Neil's question here because it seems like this list gets longer every other week. So who's now the worst woman ranked on this list? Is it Jada Pinkett-Smith, Amber Heard, Megan Fox, or Jennifer Lawrence? So here's how I would rank this if you asked me to do this. I would put Jada number 1 because apparently she's corrupting an entire family, so she's 1. Jennifer Lawrence threw her entire family under the bus, so she's 2.
Is Jennifer Lawrence a mother, though?
She is now, I believe, so...
Is there proof that she's fucking up her child?
Well, that probably won't come for another 5 years, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I'd have to put Megan second because it's she's fucking up children,
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. The next generation.
I mean, they're both bad because one, you're throwing your known family under the bus.
But these are adults.
And the other one, you're corrupting your own children as well. So it depends on which one you figure is worse.
Yeah, because you're literally destroying the next generation, so I'd say that's kind of worse.
Here's how I would do it. I'd line them up on a frickin' stage, tie them up to a frickin' pier, and just light a match.
Mm-hmm. Or just do it like they do it in Beirut. You just put down a claymore and you wait for something to go boom.
I mean, Second Salem. Let's hear it, folks. Second Salem.
Yeah. It's like one of those
people are admitting to being witches.
Yeah, and they look very much like they're part of the occult. So, I mean, how else are we supposed to take this at this point, right? Go ahead, Pete.
it's frustrating because this is kind of, it's interesting because in a weird way, Will Smith and his family for the longest time were basically Hollywood royalty. And like real royalty, that is so destructive. No one says that the Windsors, no one says Prince Charles and his family are they're just so loving. They're so supportive of one another. They're so affectionate. No one says that about them because it's obvious just looking outside in, like something is really broken there. And these people are really, really broken. It's really sad because I think with Smith, a reason why he's always been so submissive and he really does seem to believe in the institution of marriage is because, his parents had a very awful, terrible divorce when he was like a young kid. And so for him, it's like he just wants to do everything to keep it together. And I see this family and it's just so, so toxic. And it makes me so sad for them. And it's like these people have more money than me and everyone I've ever met combined. But I would not trade anything to be in their shoes. That's just kind of how depressing this all is.
So a couple of things here. You have to remember that with the Smith family, like, they're like clowns now, but go back 20 years ago, the Smith family were kind of looked at as like the gold standard for like Black Hollywood families, especially within the Black community for a very, very long time. Like everyone looked at Jada and Will's relationship as like the gold standard of like Black relationships not that long ago. And another thing that I find very, very, like, put it to you this way, they're kind of viewed then the same way that like Jay-Z and Beyonce are viewed now in that realm of like Hollywood celebrity. So everything that has come out about the reality of their relationship has just been, I don't understand how Will didn't leave years ago unless there was some kind of other nefarious reasons to why he didn't go, because it seems like you've heard Jada talk about this constantly over the years about how she really was in love with Tupac and how she loved him more than she loved Will Smith up until the part where he got shot. So there's just been this weird dynamic where Will's never really felt like he's been man enough for Jada. He's always trying to like live up to kind of like the way that the world views him, but apparently he doesn't even get viewed like that in his own household. And it's clear that he doesn't have any control over his kids at this point. And if you remember this, I might have to actually pull this up just real quick, but there was a video that came out a couple of years ago, and I think it was when Jada was doing her like YouTube show or Facebook show or something like that along those lines, and she just randomly ran up on Will Smith and started like asking him questions. You could just tell he was just visually unhappy about what was happening here. And I have to see if I can bring this up to find it here. So I have to bring up this video because I have to show you guys. But this has been going on for like quite some time. This is nothing new. This is nothing that we haven't seen before. But it's very, very clear that they're not happy about where their relationship is. Let me pull this up here just for a second. Let's go back here.
What's a worse fate? I have to wonder. Tupac getting shot or Will Smith going through the shit?
I think Tupac man got off lucky.
Tupac got off lucky.
Mm-hmm. So this is, keep in mind, this is like several years ago. I think this is maybe about 3 years ago, somewhere around this time. So this is even before the whole slap and everything that went on before this. This is like the first instance of, you can tell this man is not happy.
So, Will, you know Esther Perel is coming to the table. She's going to be at the red table. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me.
Oh, my goodness.
If you could film me.
Esther, come help us again, please. I'm still dealing with foolishness.
Because she don't just...
She helped us heal the hurts that we caused between one another.
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start. I'm standing in my house.
Please watch us stare at the red table because she's helped us a lot. Can't you tell?
Did you see how he was...
Yeah, that was a real clip from several years ago, by the way.
The way that he was holding himself like this, that tells body language, folks. That dude is afraid of that woman. He does not want to be in that area.
It's crazy how
he was being abused.
It's crazy how blatantly dismissive she was, despite him being reasonable. Addressing it in a way that in itself is reasonable, and her just completely dismissive. His thought process does not clearly matter at all.
And then like that was like a number of years ago. Then you had like I think a year after that, you had the whole thing where they're both sitting down and they have to publicly admit to the world that hey, Jada slept with one of Jaden's friends.
That's right, yeah.
And the whole world, and he literally has to like sit there with like just a look of death in his face while he admits, yeah, my wife slept with the one of the friends of like my son. And that's what this whole meme came about. If you remember this thing, let me pull it up here. Yeah, this whole look on his face that he had there trying to like answer these questions, pretending like he was okay with everything when he clearly wasn't. So there was a buildup here to this whole slap with Chris Rock. Like people act like the Chris Rock thing was just like, some kind of some spontaneous event that just happened. It's like this dude has been miserable for so long, and it just all blew up in that one ugly moment. And I will say this last point here. Between me and a group of friends that I have on Twitter, we kind of have like this running joke that if Will Smith had just left Jada Pinkett-Smith for Margot Robbie, he'd probably be a lot happier right now, because we've seen him smile a lot more with Margot Robbie than he is with his own wife. So look, I don't know. We can't say for certain what's going on behind closed doors, but everything that we're seeing with our own two eyes, it's not pretty, and it's probably not positive in any way, shape, or form. What's happening with this household?
I mean, how would you take it if you literally found out that your wife is literally living a fucking porn plot?
Yeah, I mean, dude, she's such a terrible influence. People protect her just because she's a black woman, which is like, look, if you're that low IQ that you just feel like you have to protect her because she's a black woman, you're gonna look past all this other stuff. It's like there's no even need to even having a conversation with you, because your room temperature IQ just can't handle what we're talking about here. But it's like, yeah, you have the fact that she knowingly cheated on him, quote unquote, but we have an open relationship. Yeah, I wonder if that's how it works, because it seems like he was more broken about it than you were. And then, like I said, you're influencing your daughter into God knows what, teaching her how to masturbate, teaching her porn, and then you're bringing in psychedelic drugs for the whole family to enjoy and stuff like that. It's like if there's no other better example here of demonic influence over an entire family, I can't point it out to you any further than this. I mean, this woman is just an absolute wretched Jezebel. there's no other ways I can use to describe it at this point.
I mean, the way that I see it, and I am going to go here, folks, because Chris Rock went there with the G.I. Jane 2 thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there, and I'm just going to say they should James Gunn, you should cast Jada Pinkett-Smith as Lexi Luthor.
And have you seen the show Gotham? Do you remember Jada Pinkett-Smith? Is a big bad guy early on. She was really good in that role because she played a crazy person, and I really believed she was crazy.
Well, apparently she wasn't acting. I mean, that's the thing though. Like Jada, like her career up until like the last number of years, when like her personal life has become more of the story, she still had a somewhat respectable career up until the last few years. I mean, she had that show on TNT. What was it, Hawthorne, that was around for a couple of years, and that got somewhat positive reviews. Like I said, she was on Gotham. I think the last film that I saw her in was like Girls Trip, with her, like Tiffany Haddish and a couple of other people. So I mean, she's been kind of big things over the last few years, but ever since she seems to have gone all in on exposing her personal life to the world and the things that we're hearing that's being admitted by her own family, it's like no one's looking at her the same way that they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe not even 5 years ago, if we're being honest. So yeah, I mean, exactly, Top Talk. Like I said, it's a whole bit. We'll get into it later, but yeah, I mean, that's all I can say here about this story. It's like, guys, be careful about the women that you marry, because they can literally be like just the absolute bane of your existence if you choose the wrong one. And it seems like, if we're being completely honest, Will Smith chose the wrong woman 25 years ago. Like, I know he has another son, which good for him. He kind of stays out of the public eye, like altogether, that he didn't have with Jada. Maybe he was better off with that woman. back then than he was now. Maybe he actually would have been happier and would have been happier with the trajectory of his children had he had not gone with this woman in the first place. So. One last question here from Neo. Do you think that the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock thing calls it downfall? No, because honestly, there was so many things leading up to that. Like that was kind of like the boiling point. Like that was the blow up point of everything. Because the video I just showed you, the whole sit down with him and Jada about the whole cheating thing, all that happened before the slap. So this has been going on for a while. I think the whole Chris Rock slap thing was kind of it boiling to a point where he had no longer had any control over it. Like he just had to lash out at somebody. Obviously, he can't do it to his wife, so he figured, oh, well, Chris Rock's an easy target, so I'll just lash out at him and take out all my frustrations out at him instead of, no, go see a therapist or somebody else. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I just wish this was back in the 90s, because then if it was, that whole fucking family would be in jail.
Mm-hmm. Back when our society was somewhat respectable and not quite as degenerate as it is now, where
Before
we're just
the fall,
normalizing everything.
Yeah, before the fall, they would be fucking in jail for dealing fucking drugs, for possession, all that shit.
Yeah. Illegal. Like I said, there's just so much immorality, and there's clearly only one source. It's like if Will seemed like he was just as degenerate as Jada was, I can kind of blame both of them, but it's like all of these branches lead back up to Jada. So I don't know what kind of hold, whether godly or ungodly hold she has on her family, but yeah, there's something wicked going on there. And like I said, I would avoid that entire family with a 10-foot pole, or as Jason once said, with an AR-15. Let's move on to our final topic of the night, unless you guys have one more not on this one here. Nope, nothing. All right, well, let's jump over to our closer here, which is Gal Gadot. Now, Gal Gadot seems to be an actress who has, I think, fallen out of favor with some of the let's say the targeted, the protected class over in Hollywood over the last few years. This is a woman who, if you go back to the whole thing with like Ezra Miller, when Ezra Miller was trying to get her to say that really creepy thing that she clearly wanted no part of, you can tell that she doesn't really gel with kind of the mindset of Hollywood. I'm not saying that she's clean by any stretch of the imagination, but she's definitely seemed to be out of favor with some of the more protected people in the business. She's an Israeli actress. She's from Israel, but she doesn't condemn Israel. She doesn't try to advocate for the downfall of Israel, which obviously causes her a lot of heat on that end. There's rumors at the moment whether she's actually going to be back as Wonder Woman. There's people saying it's kind of 50-50 at the moment. Some people think that James Gunn may bring her back. Others think that they may just recast the role altogether. So we don't even know if she's going to come back to this now. But she did a couple of interviews. She did an interview recently. There's a couple of stories that broke out with this interview. I'm going to address it point by point here. The first one is basically her rebuking Hollywood's misogyny narrative, saying that moviegoers want to see movies with women if the story is good. So it's kind of like this whole idea of diversity for diversity's sake. She's kind of rebuked that whole narrative in this interview. She has a movie coming out later this year called Heart of Stone. I think it's out maybe like the next month or so. It is somewhere coming out soon, but it's a Netflix movie. She's starring in the role of it. And she spoke with Vogue in Hong Kong, which I think is kind of funny. She was asked, how important was it to portray you in these type of roles? What do you hope the audience will take away from your performance? And this is what she responded. She said, great question. Well, it's funny. I guess I just got lucky playing very strong, powerful characters. Heart of Stone was something that I always wanted to do. I always felt like I was a big fan of this genre, a big fan of the Mission Impossible, the Bond movies, and I was never given the opportunity as a girl watching myself in one of these. I was always wondering if there was room for something like that, but female driven. Then she continued by saying that I think I got my confidence only after Wonder Woman came out, maybe this huge success. That was something that so that's the thing that really proved to me that, wait, people say that men don't want to see women. They do want to see these movies with women if the story is good, if the action is there, if it makes sense, they're all for it. She also says that after One Woman came out, my husband, who is also my partner in the production company, we had a meeting with David Ellison. We had a great time. We ended our conversation. David asked me, "So what do you want to do?" She says that, "What do you want to do? Produce?" I told him I want to produce a female-driven action film. It's like, oh, that's exciting, global, scopy. We shook on it. Now here we are. I'm very grateful for the fact that we've been given such great partners like David, like Sundance, like Netflix, and it's been an incredible ride. And that was the conclusion to that question. So then she also followed that up with another interview that got picked up by Bounty. So I'm going to jump over to this one really quick here. And this is basically her expressing skepticism of gender swapping characters and acknowledging the differences between men and women. So I want to say, is this the same interview or is this a different interview? Okay, this is Total Film that she had this conversation with. Keep promoting her film here. She said, I wanted to show a great story about a female character and who is doing the action genre right. It says that she is thriving, but at the same time, how many times have they switched genders? Gal Gadot explained in this article. Move down a little bit here. It's like they take a story that is all about the men and they just change it to a woman, and then they go and shoot it. She continues, as she acknowledged that there's differences between the genders. To me, it's so important in the DNA to make Heart of Stone a little different, because men and women are different. We're built differently. They operate differently. And there it says Hollywood here probably won't take heed to Gal Gadot's remarks about the differences between men and women here. This is kind of a complete opposite of what we were seeing with the whole Kathleen Kennedy agenda with Lucasfilms and things of that nature. So there's a couple of comments there kind of saying that, look, we want to do female-led stuff, but we have to do it right. We can't just rely on representation to get us across the finish line, because that's just not going to work in this medium. And like I said, a lot of the comments that she says, she's clearly not all in on sort of the aspects of, the progressive Hollywood ideology. So she's fallen out of favor with a lot of people because of this. And I'm pretty sure these comments aren't going to help. But I'll start with you, Orange Hat. What do you kind of think of Gail's estimation about kind of the action genre, female-led films and stuff like that?
Well, while I do applaud her newfound positions, I'm not going to forget that this woman helped do during COVID a fucking communist manifesto all over Instagram and TikTok and shit.
Imagine.
Yeah. And it's so, but I will give her credit for for acknowledging, well, we just wanted to be a little bit more united to let people know that we were thinking of them. It's like, from your Eiffel Tower. But the fact that she's actually waking up or that she's actually basically getting red pilled and shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's actually quite impressive. And the fact that she is actually getting pretty much blacklisted and whatnot, that tells you she's on the right track. It tells you that your Hollywood presence may diminish, but your presence, by keeping to yourself, by keeping true to yourself, is shining a lot brighter. Because remember, this woman she has been through shit. She was in the Israeli Defense Force. She has, or that is a requirement for people who are born over there.
Yeah. And like I said, they don't like Gal Gadot because she's from Israel and she won't condemn her country like Natalie Portman did. So because of that, they don't like her based on that either.
And that's right, because it's like right now we got, I don't want to get too political here.
Go for it.
We got people in the government that are pro-Palestine, and Palestine has been a lot more genocidal than Israel ever has.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking Israel needs a goddamn missile dome for defense because Palestine keeps launching shit over.
Yep.
And it just goes to show that she's staying true to herself. She's staying true to her lifestyle. She's staying true to her beliefs. And she's now also acknowledging common sense by basically saying, men are men, women are women, and I'm sorry, all this gender swapping bullshit is starting to screw with things to the point where it's insane. She's acknowledging this, and I absolutely am all for it. I respect her, yes, but I'm also, it's like, you just got to get a little further away from Hollywood before I fully respect you.
Yeah, that's true. And here's the thing with Gal. I believe she has 3 sons, if I'm not mistaken. 2, maybe 3 sons. I have to go back there and clarify that. But she has boys, and she's not of the mindset that I want to sit here and condemn all men and condemn the gender roles and this idea that men are oppressive. Because it's like, well, if I'm raising boys, why would I want to instill that into my own children, right? Why would I want to extend that toxic mindset into my kids and corrupt my kids? Now, obviously, Hollywood has no problem with finding actresses who will throw their own children under the bus of woke. We talked about Megan Fox earlier. She has no problem with that, but Gal Gadot doesn't want to go all in on that. Maybe it's the fact that she's not American, that she is Israeli, that there's a kind of a disconnect there with what Hollywood wants to push and make the world believe versus what she believes. So, like I said, when it comes to a lot of these celebrities, like when you talk about like Chris Pratt, it's like, yeah, I generally like Chris Pratt, but at the end of the day, you're still kind of the machine. So if you want me to kind of take you seriously as a rebel against it, I mean, really the only way to truly do that is to get away from it altogether, because otherwise I can only see that, well, maybe either you have 1 foot in or 1 foot out, but you can't really take 2 sides of this issue, especially when you're talking about the land of the beast there. But Cassie, what is your thoughts on Gal Gadot's statements there?
Well, I actually, I do definitely approve of where she's going with it. To me, she has looked at the past, like, what, 5 to 10 plus years worth of film and came to the conclusion as to why most of it is a complete total fucking failure. So to me, that's a great start. As for, her politics and all that, there's things that she says that I agree with, and then there's sometimes she says things that I don't agree with, and that's just a part of people being able to speak their mind. And I do appreciate that she's not afraid to speak up at times, and to me that's a lot more than a lot of people in Hollywood. And
somebody just corrected me there. She has 3 kids, but they're all girls, so that's actually the opposite of what I was saying there. So
interesting.
Hey, at least she's not trying to turn them into boys.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Or non-binary.
Pretty much. And but like I said, this is a great start. Now, what comes of this mindset, I can't say for sure. It's not like I don't necessarily think very highly of Gal Gadot in terms of her talents. I think that, she's not the worst thing ever, but she's not. I never thought of her as like particularly a good actress. I can see that she has high aspirations with what she wants to do, and the mindset is good. Now, where it goes from here, I can't. I would hope that good things would come of it.
Has she ever spoken in an American accent? I don't believe I've ever heard her speak in an American accent in anything that she's done.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. But, what do you kind of think of this whole thing, Pete?
I like Gal Gadot. I mean, she's an interesting person. She reminds me of Gina Carano in a little bit of ways, because most people, when you talk to actors or actresses, big or small, it's hard to get them to be very frank or honest in a way. Like the big ones are, but everyone else is so careful because they don't know if they're going to say the wrong thing, so they won't get future projects. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
But Gal Gadot does actually share information now and then that is real and legit. And she comes off very, like, she's got good self-control. She's self-disciplined. I like Gadot in a few things that I've seen her in. She was great in Red Notice. I like that Gal Gadot was a practicing Jew, and she's very religious. She got in trouble in 2014 because she had on Facebook attacked Hamas. Well, I mean, not physically attacked, but complained about them and how it was hurting people. So I would not be surprised if she is a tiny bit of a little more conservative than your average Hollywood person. The fact that she is a religious practicing person, the fact that she was in the Defense Force, as Orange pointed out, I sometimes wonder if that's a detriment to her. But at the moment, her career is hot, and so I think she will continue to see success. The question is though, once she is no longer as useful because 84 was for all intents and purposes a bomb. What happens next? Is all this going to come back? All those people that secretly hated her because she was a conservative practicing Jew. I don't know. But for now, I think she's okay. But we'll have to see. Because it reminds me of Gina Carano in the similar way. It was like she was very open and frank. That was okay until one day someone wanted to do her out, and she touched something or said something she wasn't supposed to. I could see that happening to Gadot in the future, but I hope not. I like her.
Yeah, and it seems like, especially with like Warner Brothers, with this whole James Gunn reboot, that they're kind of, I guess, pulling the wool on a lot of the older like Zack Snyder hires, and it kind of feels like Henry Cavill and maybe Gal Gadot to a certain extent are kind of in the same boat at the moment, where it doesn't look like that they have any real spot in the upcoming DCEU moving forward, which you kind of ask the question, okay, where do they kind of line up in current Hollywood at the moment? I know a lot of these guys are trying to move over to Netflix. I guess it's just easier to produce content for them right now because Netflix is just desperate for any kind of content they can like use to justify the streaming service. So it's an easier barrier of entry going to them than trying to go to the traditional studio model. But I don't know. It feels like something's going to have to break here sooner rather than later because, like I said, you have all of these kind of conflicting ideologies, but the reason why people go along with it is because, hey, they still want to work in Hollywood, so they don't want to rock the boat. So it's like, oh yeah, you want us to push this kind of progressive nonsense, then yeah, we'll go ahead and do it. But how much longer can you continue to do that before you just have to make a decision where I don't know if this is worth it anymore?
Yeah, Gadot is similar to Portman. Portman's also Israeli and was also served. But the difference is Portman has not defended Israel, is more than happy to kind of like put it down or step over it. Whereas Gadot doesn't seem to be like that. It seems like she genuinely does like her background, her religion, her faith, her country. And I wonder, that's kind of why I said previously, it's like, I wonder if at one point all that stuff is going to come back to haunt her. I don't think it should. But I mean, come on, it's Hollywood. There are a bunch of... as we've seen tonight, there's a lot of people who are not very good people in Hollywood, and they do not appreciate people like Gal Gadot.
Like I said, it's mind blowing to me because it's like people try to like criticize her for supporting Israel. It's like, yeah, it's her country. What do you expect? It's like me being like, oh, I can't believe that someone born in France would defend France. It's like, well, yeah, if he's born there, he's going to defend that country. Like, I think, like I said, a lot of these people are kind of in the mindset like everyone's supposed to be Natalie Portman, who, despite being born in Israel, completely denies Israel, slams Israel every chance that she gets. So I guess they all think that everyone should be like her. And then when you have someone who's like, no, I'm not going to disregard where I came from, it's like, oh my God, what a terrible person this is. It's like, yeah, she's not going to support Hamas. It's like, why is that surprising to anyone paying attention, right? So that's kind of a last topic there. And there's one more thing that I wanted to get here since Cassie is on the show. She can't leave. So as you know, this Monday night, we're going to be reviewing a couple of movies. We're going to be reviewing The Sound of Freedom, which I saw earlier today. Not going to spoil anything about that movie, but it's the movie about the child trafficking that happens south of the border. It was a film that was supposed to be released in 20th Century Fox, but when Disney bought the company, they essentially shelved the movie for a number of years, and now it's finally being released now. Shocker how they don't want to talk about child trafficking and sex abuse in Hollywood. I don't know why they be a sore subject for them. So that's one of the movies we're talking about. Me, Rob, and Rick will be discussing that movie on Monday night. And I wanted to issue a challenge to Cassie since she's here and since she has disposable income. The other movie we're going to be reviewing on Monday night is a little film called
Cassie
Joyride.
you talking about? Not this one.
You're monetized now. You can pay for a movie ticket. He's just like, look at me. It's like I'm broke as a motherfucker. But yeah, so there's a film called Joyride, and I'll talk about it in greater detail on Monday night. But I generally want to see if people can take what I like to call the 40-minute challenge, meaning can you watch that movie and not walk out before 40 minutes of the runtime? Keep in mind, it's an hour and 37-minute movie. So it's not a short time frame, but can you at least make it 40 minutes into
Remember that one movie that you told me to watch with the fucking stupid cunt princess in the castle?
Oh yeah, the princess that came out last year.
Yeah, I made it visually watching for about 20 minutes and then tuned out as it played in the background, bro. You really think that I have the willpower to sit through these piece of shit films
Because
that you
what
guys
I'm
sit
doing here is that I know this isn't going to be a good movie, so I'm trying to see, can I actually test my willpower with everyone else? So I got Rob and Rick seeing if they can go 40 minutes into this film before they leave. They're not allowed to leave before 40 minutes. Do you want to take the plunge? What is this?
No, I'm still mentally preparing for Barbie. You don't understand. Like, I'm mentally preparing to walk into that movie theater, preferably as drunk as fucking possible, to see Barbie. The person that hates Barbie as
Let me
far
ask you
back
this
as I
real
could
quick, though.
remember.
If does getting drunk make it more likely that you'll stay for a movie, or less likely that you'll stay for a movie?
More likely, but also if it's truly insufferable, I'll probably fall asleep.
Because if you get arrested, I mean, that still counts as walking out. So you're not going to get any pass for getting hammered and then getting arrested for public intoxication.
I'm a very sleepy drunk, so I would just simply fall asleep. I guess, no one's gonna bother me, bro. It's PA, where as long as you don't make a ruckus, nobody gives a fuck. There's a bunch of old people falling asleep behind the fucking wheel of a car out here, so.
Yeah, I believe it. Maybe that's why Mr. maybe that's why Mr. Rob Motto didn't join us here tonight. He's still recovering, trying to get adjusted to the PA life. So, yeah, so that's coming up Monday night. Letting you guys know just real quick that this Friday night will be our movie night. We're watching Hell Comes to Frogtown with Roddy Piper. So that's actually a movie that you should be into for a Friday night movie review show. We're doing that one on Rumble, Twitch, and Kick as well. And then that'll be our last movie night for a while. I think we're going to shift it to a monthly movie night. Next week, I'm starting a whole new podcast with a whole new group of people that you've probably had never met before. I've been planning this one for the last few weeks, but next Friday night on YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble as well, we're doing a podcast called The Bible Lens, which is we're going to talk about not movies, but stories in the realm of Hollywood from a more biblical perspective. I know, like I said, a lot of you guys aren't particularly Christians here on this podcast, but we're starting a new show on Friday night, so we can kind of go more into theology with a lot of the things that are going on here. The next Friday night, we're actually our first topic, because we've covered it so much on this show over the last 3 weeks. We're going to get more in depth into the phenomenon of witchcraft, especially in the entertainment industry. So that's a new show that we're going to have episode 1 on Friday night. Like I said, we're going to have all new people from different channels and different perspectives of life that you haven't been on, that you haven't seen on this show before. So it's going to be a radically different show than what we've done before that. So this Friday, Hell Comes to Frogtown will be our last movie night for the next month, and then we'll go on with a new show on Friday night. So that's going to be the slight little change there. But outside of that, we're still doing the Monday night show, review show on Monday nights, and Tuesday will still be the Barroom podcast for the foreseeable future. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the floor and give you guys a chance to promote what you guys got coming up here. Orange Hat, do you have anything going on possibly at this moment that people should be aware about?
Well, tomorrow night I'm doing 1s and 2s with Jade Shadow Mara on her channel. Next week, if we iron out all the details, we're going to be doing Thursday night singles, where Thursday night at 8 o'clock we discuss just standalone movies, which we really enjoy. And Tuesdays are mystery reviews in the afternoon. I just got done doing the most obvious mystery review, which was Independence Day. And next week is 30 or a 30-year-old film, because all the mystery reviews in July are 90s films. So that's the first hint. You'll see more hints by going to the playlist and looking at the description. Also, I try to get out as much content as I can, because my hours are just dropping like a freaking meteor. So I'm really trying to get it back or get them back up there. So if you could check out my playlists, my mystery reviews are my highest number of videos, I believe. I also do reviews as much as I can, not every day, but as often as I am able. So yeah, we're discussing Jaws tomorrow on Mara Jade's channel. It's it's another perfect 4th of July film. And you can also catch me on Twitter at Orange Hat Patriot, as well as my backup Orange Hat 2185.
Pete, can you explain what you're doing in a lot less words? Let me ask you just a quick question, Pete, real quick. Have you ever actually watched the show Pete and Pete on Nickelodeon, the old show from 30 years ago? Because I feel like I make so many references.
I've heard it referenced many times over my life.
I feel like I make so many references to that show, but it's like, has he actually watched this show?
I also haven't seen Blue Peter. That's the other one I usually hear too. Yeah. Sorry, not a lot of Peter related entertainment in my life. Anyways, sorry, I'm a little tired. We had fireworks till 4 a.m. last night, and if you can, I don't know if my mic is picking it up. I think I have fireworks going on either side of the building.
Oh no, there's still gunshots going out over here too. So yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah, so please guys check out Culturescape. It's my podcast. We interview a lot of nerds and geeks, creators, influencers. We just did an interview with David Weber, who's a big science fiction author. That was pretty cool. We have a new upcoming one in a couple of weeks with a voice actor that I'm really excited for. It's a great show. I really enjoyed it. I think people will like it too. And if you really want to hear from me, I'm on Twitter, probably much too often, at Happy Warrior P. And thanks again, Jacob and gang, for letting me hang out with you here tonight.
All right. And then last but not least, Cassie.
Well, got here a little late, but nonetheless, it was an awesome podcast.
Yeah.
Happy 4th of July as we close it out, but yet another year. America still stands. For how long, who knows? But we get to celebrate that. But real quick, guys, follow me on Twitter, YouTube, or Kick, Cult Classic Cage. Just to keep it simple.
All right, then. Like I said, I pretty much told you guys what we got coming up here over the next few days. So just follow us there for updates. Like I said, new show in 2 weeks, but we got a lot of movies to watch. Monday is going to be a very, very interesting one because I got a lot of things to say about this Seth Rogen produced film that are probably going to fly off the handle in a lot of ways. So Monday should be a pretty good show if you want to see me really upset. So shout out to everyone who joined us tonight. Spencer, Neo, Vanya, Excalibur, Double Fett, Alex vs. Evil, Drax the Clown, Bonita Beach joining us here tonight. Rich Swag Lord, I know you were here earlier tonight. John was here for a little bit. You know the deal. Joined us tonight. Obviously, Mephisto movie reviews. The unapologetic American JEC, who was joining us earlier on the show. Mrs. Flu actually joining us here too. So I'm glad to see you're back on here as well. And I want to make sure I get everyone before we hop out here. And Duke Nukem. I should gave out Top Dog, Amari Parker. So yeah, I think that's it. Oh yeah, and Right Wing is also joining us as well. One last thing before we hop off here, I forgot to mention this as well too. I'm trying to build a Guilded server. The server is technically up, but I haven't completely organized it yet. It's going to be a work in progress throughout the rest of this week. But we do have a Guilded server up right now. If you guys want to join, I'll throw that link to the Guilded server so you guys can join up. But like I said, it's going to be a while before it's fully up and running. So it's going to take just a little bit of time. Be patient with us, but it is coming. But I guess that's about all that I can remember here. So thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. Happy Independence Day. Don't blow your fingers off. Try to light fireworks and don't burn down your house like some idiots on Twitch who are be doing right now. So yeah, you don't be what was his name? Jason Pierre-Paul. Was he the guy who blew off half his hand in the New York Giants?
Oh my god.
Those Cassie has PTSD, so she definitely remembers.
I knew a guy in high school. I knew a guy that he played with fireworks and it blew off like 3.5 of his fingers on his right hand.
Damn.
Yeah, that's usually what happens when you have no idea what you're doing with fireworks. Matter of fact, can we play this video? I think I might have played this last week, but I have to see if this video still exists. Please tell me that it's still there on Twitter. Hold on, just 1 second before we sign off here.
I do know one guy that I went to high school with. He his hand is like this.
Oh, how many fingers does he have remaining?
3, thumb and these 2.
Okay, let me go ahead and so that's the link to our Gilded server right now. Like I said, we still got a lot of fleshing out to do so before we get there, but we're gonna sign off by playing this video, this amazing video of the 4th of July. For the love of God, ladies and gentlemen, don't do what this family did.
Oh, Doug.
Oh, come on, this Twitter is lagging this thing, of course. I hate Twitter videos. They're just the absolute worst. Okay, now we can go. So don't do this, guys. We'll see you guys later.
Wow, fucking dickhead.
Oh no.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Whoa. Well, that got out of hand quickly.